Hi guys, welcome back to another fragrance video on my channel and thanks so much for tuning in again. Now in today's video I want to talk to you about my top 10 Xerjoff fragrances. So my favorite Xerjoff fragrances, and it's actually part 1. So I have tried a couple of their fragrances and I already got 10 that I absolutely liked. I mean, you have to understand that Xerjoff is not only Xerjoff. They bought a couple of brands and they rebranded a couple of products. So it's actually more than one brand, so to speak. And also they have way more than 10 awesome fragrances. So this is part 1 and I'm going to shoot part 2 in the future if I find some more fragrances that I absolutely love. But here are 10 fragrances by the house of Xerjoff or one of their sub-brands that I absolutely love. And we are starting off with Apollonia, which is a white floral and musky fragrance. It has some iris butter in it and some white floral notes, and it's probably their most feminine fragrance of the fragrances that I actually own. So it's flowery, it's powdery, it's kind of sweet a little bit, and it's really a very common, I would say, floral and musky fragrance. So you will encounter a lot of fragrances that have the same DNA or a similar DNA, but as often with Xerjoff, this one is really very well done, and you smell the quality, you smell that it's just very well put together. So I absolutely love this, and if you want an upscale version of this, I can recommend to you a fragrance called Star Musk, which you will only be able to get in a set together with another fragrance that's on this list called Amber Star. I mean, the set is really quite expensive, but in my opinion both fragrances are awesome, so you should definitely get them if you can sample them and you decide that you like them. But therefore, next up I want to talk about the fragrance Amber Star. Now this one is really funny because, as you would expect with an amber fragrance, you would expect a super performing, super cold weather fragrance. So amber fragrances typically are fragrances with resinous notes on one hand and vanilla on the other. So of course in this one we have vanilla, benzo and opoponax, together with some ylang-ylang, cedarwood and guaiac wood and myrrh. So in my opinion, what you get here is a typically amber fragrance, a typically ambery dry down, together with some smoky myrrh on top and some floral and woodsy components. However, what makes this fragrance special is, in my opinion, its suitability for warmer temperatures. Now, I'm not talking about 25 degrees Celsius up, but typically you would wear an amber fragrance at around 0 to 10 degrees or maybe 15 degrees, and this one is perfectly suited for everything above that. So if you want to wear an amber fragrance during spring or maybe during autumn where it's not as cold already, then you can definitely choose Amber Star, and it's just a very elegant and super nice oriental fragrance. Not so elegant, a lot bolder, but equally as oriental is the fragrance Cylon, and it's one of their Oud Stars. So one of 2 Oud Stars fragrances actually that are on this list, and this is a honey fragrance. So it's really quite comparable to Mamluk, which is also a honey fragrance, but this one contains honey, black tea and oud. So it's really quite animalic, but I have to say that this DNA really gets a lot of compliments from me. So I did try wearing it in the office, I tried wearing it outside when I'm with people, and usually people seem to like this fragrance. So don't be shocked. I mean, if you put it on, the first few minutes are really quite daring, but if you go outside, I have not experienced a single person saying that this fragrance smells bad, because actually it's really like smelling on a glass of honey to me. So honey comes through very strongly and people seem to enjoy it a lot, and it also has an excellent performance, really beast modey type of fragrance. So although it's probably the most expensive fragrance on this list, it is really awesome. The next one is called Alexandria 2. It's also from their Oud Stars collection, and it's the total opposite. So this is also an oriental fragrance, but in a very soft and elegant in Western type of way. It's mostly a vanilla and powdery type of fragrance with an oudi note to it. Its fragrance notes also say that it contains rose and lavender. So technically I believe this is a rose oud fragrance. However, I have to say that I don't smell too much rose in here, and for me it's mostly vanilla. vanilla with powdery notes and a little bit of oud in the base. So there's not much to say about Alexandria 2, because if you haven't tried it, where are you fucking living, you know? It's one of the most awesome fragrances ever produced by the house of Xerjoff, and I think you should definitely try it if you haven't. And if you want to have more of an oriental and animalic type of Alexandria, then you should definitely try Alexandria Orientale or Alexandria 3, because the differences in these are that they use more oud or different ouds, I believe, and therefore they are also more animalic and more oriental even. So if you want to have the full oriental blast, get these two because they're also awesome. Next up there is Iris with 3S. This is a fragrance that is very strong on the note of, you might have guessed it, iris, and it also has some carrot beginning and a slightly woodsy dry down. So it's a really powdery scent. It contains an insane amount of pure iris. I know the European distributor for Xerjoff, so he told me that it's insanely costly to produce since it contains so much of pure natural iris. And I mean, if you hear the note of iris, the fragrances that you think of naturally would be Prada L'Homme and Dior Homme Parfum, but Iris by Xerjoff is only remotely comparable to these two fragrances because it's really strong on the iris note. So it's really oriental, really strong on iris, and therefore also quite polarizing. Personally, I have received really good reactions from people around me, so I can definitely say that it's been a good fragrance for me, but you should be careful, so please sample before you buy this, since not everyone reacts positively to this fragrance. Next up we have Golden Dalal, which is also quite unusual. So it's a coffee fragrance with a gourmandy sweet dry down and some floral notes in it. So I feel that it has some floral notes. It's really quite sweet and I absolutely love this fragrance. It's an extrait de parfum, so it's really very strong, but you have to be careful because it's also quite polarizing. For example, another fragrance reviewer from Germany that I personally know, he absolutely hates this one, and I cannot understand why. So you have to try this. In my opinion, it's a really great coffee scent, and it's the best of the Coffee Break line. I don't really like the other Coffee Break fragrances by Xerjoff, but this one is great, and I definitely recommend that you try this, although it's really quite polarizing. Next up we have Oud Overdose, one of their most mainstream type of fragrances. This one reminded me a lot of, for example, Yves Saint Laurent La Nuit de l'Homme, but only on a very, very high and very well done level. I think it's absolutely awesome in terms of quality. However, it could be a little bit too mainstreamish for you if you like niche fragrances for being niche. However, if you want to get into niche fragrances and you want to have a safe fragrance, then please go for Oud Overdose, because it's a citrus woodsy fragrance that in my opinion has a little bit of that La Nuit de l'Homme DNA. Now the final three fragrances are fragrances that I don't really own the full bottle of and that I've only tried from buying a sample, but I absolutely love them as well. And two of these fragrances have recently been converted into Xerjoff fragrances because they were technically under one of their sub-brands before. And these two are Duetto by Sospiro, and the other one is Leilati, which is, I believe, was it also Sospiro? It could have also been Sospiro, yeah. So let's start off with Duetto. It is the most awesome floriental fragrance. It has a really dark resinous base. It has a really beautiful rose in the top. Some spices mixed in, some vanilla, some oak moss, some vetiver. So it's really an awesome, super oriental, super nice rose fragrance. And in my opinion, it's their only classic rose oriental fragrance. So you don't really have too many fragrances that have a prominent rose note and that go into the oriental direction by Xerjoff. So if you are looking for one of those classic rose oud fragrances, this is the one I would go for because it's just so awesome. The other one I wanted to talk about is Leilati, which was, I believe, also by Sospiro, as I said. And this one is for all those people that love fragrances by Nasomatto, because this one really reminded me of, for example, Duro and maybe even a little bit of black Afghano. It's a cedarwood based fragrance with musk and tobacco and vanilla in the base, and it's just awesome. It's very unusual for Xerjoff because, as I said, it reminded me so much of one of those Nasomato fragrances, which are typically very dry and woodsy and very spicy. And Xerjoff in general is a very floral and musky brand, so they have a lot of floral and musky fragrances, and this one is really odd and really very unusual for them, but it's so well done. I can totally recommend it. So as I said, if you like pure woodsy fragrances that are also a little bit spicy, definitely check out Leilati. It's just awesome. And then finally, one of their cheaper fragrances from the Join the Club collection is Cambridge Club. This one, to my nose, also contains rose. It's a floral and kind of sweet fragrance. It hasn't been available for quite some time, so it was sold out or something, but now it's available again. And to me, it's a perfect entry-level floral fragrance, and it's also one of their best Join the Club fragrances. I tried all of them and I liked some of them, so maybe I will put in the part 2 of this video another one of their Join the Club fragrances, but some of them are really like not worth the money in my opinion. However, Cambridge Club is, and I totally recommend that you check it out if you like floral fragrances and you want kind of a cheaper alternative. So anyways guys, that's about it with my top 10 Xerjoff fragrances part 1. If you like this video, leave me a thumbs up, please. Let me know your favorite Xerjoff fragrances in the comment section down below if you have any. Subscribe to this channel to see more of these videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching and bye bye.